One of them wanted to be the security guy. He claimed he was a security guy.
Welcome to Security Guy Radio. What's your name, sir?
John Adams.
And what's your company name?
SecurAmerica.
And how do we get a hold of SecurAmerica?
Website? You can look at us on the website, www.secureamericallc.com, or you can call us at our corporate office at 404-926-4222.
Where are you guys headquartered out of?
We're headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, I love Atlanta. That's a great town.
It is a great town. 2 or 3 times, yeah. Good food there too, right?
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very good. So what do you guys do?
We're predominantly in the man guarding services arena. We also provide guest relations, concierge type services, shuttle bus operations on the commercial side. And on the governmental side, we have a company, American Security Programs, and American Security Programs provides armed guarding services to the federal government, local and state municipalities as well, and a variety of quasi-governmental entities.
I like that transportation piece. It makes sense.
It does.
Because you're in the space already, so you might as well secure the van or the transportation and the people.
That's exactly right. I mean, we have a lot of customers that have come to us and said, you do a great job, you know, with access control and perimeter security, and they have corporate campuses where they'll have a shuttle bus operation, and they've said, hey, can you deliver the same quality of service, the great people and everything else? The nice thing with it is that we train the shuttle bus drivers on security protocols and techniques as well, so it's almost like you get an extra roving patrol while you're taking care of your guests.
Oh, no, that's interesting. So the driver's not a guard, not licensed as the guard, but trained.
That's correct.
Okay, so I had a model like that once, an idea, where I was going to, you know, one client of mine, because I ran two guard companies, right? They wanted to save money, and I said, make all your janitors guards. What do you mean? I'll give them all a guard license, and we'll pay them a little extra money, and they can clean, and they're licensed as a guard. It's all legal, right?
Right.
And we tried it, and it actually did work for a little while, but it's not the best model, of course, but for cost savings. So I'm glad to see people are consolidating things in the guards, because the guard business is a service business. A lot of companies don't get that.
They do.
They think it's stack them high, put the guy there and walk away, and it's really about service.
No, that's not how we operate. I mean, very different model.
So how big is your company?
Right now we operate in about 35 markets around the U.S. and growing very rapidly.
What do you find your challenges are in licensing in different states? Just an example, I was looking at opening something up in Kentucky and was surprised to find I didn't need a private patrol operator license in Kentucky, or the guards just had to do like a registration, wasn't really licensing. But most states require it now, right?
That's correct, they do. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges, and truth be told, one of the biggest opportunities as well. We really need standardized licensure requirements across the U.S. Some states, as you've said, aren't regulated at all. Others are very heavily regulated. To have one universal standard that would give us the ability to have the same caliber of security professionals across the U.S., I think would improve the industry dramatically.
What's the challenge, or what's the resistance, do you think? Do you think it's going to drive business out if it's too regulated? Or now in California, we have BSIS, right? That's
right.
You operate in California?
We do.
Okay, so you know the challenges, right?
Yes.
8 hours of training, 4 hours of training. I think it's good, but where's the budget from the client for the training? Because the client expects you to show up with them being Sergeant York and all ready to go, right?
Exactly.
And that's difficult to meet that requirement. And if you take the 8 hours mandatory training that's required in California, and it's your requirement to train the guards, that's an additional cost. And so these in California with the margins and insurance, it's very, very difficult. How do you get around that in California specifically? Not get around it, that's not the right way to say, but how do you comply with that?
Well, at the end of the day, you've got to have the right customer with the right mindset that understands that a well-trained security officer is going to benefit them greatly. And it's just explaining to them that, yes, there is a cost for training, but the cost of having an untrained security officer on premises, you know, can be very significant.
Right.
And so, you know, there are some states, for example, we're headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. Georgia requires 24 hours of pre-assignment training before a person, even if they were with another company and come to SecurAmerica, we have to train them again for 24 hours.
That's pretty stringent.
It is,
yeah,
but I will
works.
tell you, it's very effective because I want to know that they've been trained properly, they've been trained my way to deliver the service levels to our customers that we expect.
What's your biggest challenge in approaching a customer for a sale?
Convincing them that making a change will make a difference. I think everyone believes that, we all fish from the same pond, right?
Right.
And so they say, well, you're pretty much all the same. I would disagree with that. A couple points. Number one, yes, we are, from a socioeconomic perspective, fishing from the same pond. But at the end of the day, what you pull out of that pond can be very different.
Right.
And some companies have a very commoditized, hey, I just want a warm body approach. We're very discerning. And with some of our technology that we use with Quantec and some of the other things, we have a 1 to 10 candidate to applicant ratio. So for every 10 people that apply, we only choose one, which is very important. So that's the first comment that I make.
That's a big differentiator. We at Disney, it was 1 out of 100.
Is that right?
Well, we had a budget and we had time and who didn't want to work at Disney,
Right.
right? So we had lines of people standing up, but it created a very specific type of employee in the end.
Right.
That fit the culture, because that's a culture match really more than a skill
It really
match,
is.
right?
We do work with Disney now, and so we understand that culture.
So you get that your guard has to match their culture, not the opposite way around, right? And
That's
really
right.
important, yeah.
That's right. We have to acquiesce to their culture, and actually, we are the brand representative for them. So getting back to it, I think it's convincing the customer that making a change will make a difference. So it's not only how we recruit our people, but how we select, how we train. All of our training is instructor-led. It's not it's hands-on. It's didactic. Right. And then we use training as another filter. We screen people out in the training class and say, no, you're not appropriate for this company.
That is a good training method, yeah.
Or you'll see that, you've got a person that, we were getting ready to put them in a front lobby of a Class A high-rise, and they're non-communicative. They sit there with their arms folded. They don't want to talk. Okay, they're great for a parking deck, but they're not good for a lobby. And so it's really matching the individual to the assignment in which they are going to fulfill, right?
That's brilliant. Every person in any job comes to you with a skill set, right?
Right.
What's their aptitude?
That's exactly right.
And if I worked in radio before I became a guard, you're going to want to put me in the Chatty Cathy position because I'm going to engage people.
Exactly.
And so if you match those previous skill sets with guard work, you're much more successful. What's the number one challenge you have in retention? What do you think most guards leave? Because retention's a big deal. I bet you have a high retention rate.
We do.
But it's still the guard business, so what do you do to kind of keep people working there?
Recognition. Everyone thinks it's compensation. And
it's not.
I would argue that it's not. I mean, we
you.
have a very, very high retention rate. And it's primarily because we recognize our people. Every single month with my company, we have a program called the 110% Club. Frank Argenbright, who's our founder, put this in place 30 years ago with one of his other companies. And so every single month, every employee in the company is scored based on attendance, appearance, performance, client commendations, and the like. You hit 110 points, you get a letter from me saying, congratulations, you're part of the 110% Club. And every year, at the end of the year, we hold a banquet for our associates. Now, imagine this. You have security officers that have been in the business for years. They've never been recognized, right? We want to catch you doing the right things.
Right.
Most companies want to catch you doing the wrong things.
That's the model. That's right.
And we're going to reward you for that.
Yeah.
And so what happens is that we bring them in. And we have a couple years ago, the theme was like the Oscars. You're our star performers. So we literally had the big bronze or gold statues up there. We had the red carpet. You see security officers coming in with a rented tux or a formal evening gown. They're bringing in their spouses, significant others, their family members to see them get recognized. Because look, let's face it. How many people at high school career day said, "I want to be a security officer"?
Right.
No one. Right?
Pretty much.
And so no one. And most people stumbled onto the industry. Well, now we're trying to teach them that this can be a profession. If you're a performer and you do great things, you can ascend to a higher level within our organization.
What's interesting is most businesses would do the same thing, right? Almost every company I've worked with or for has employee recognition. The car business doesn't think it's necessary in general. It's weird.
I know.
It's weird to me.
I know. And it's interesting because those people, that's my product, that's my deliverable. Human capital by the hour is what we do.
That's the product is people, right?
Now what we do, we have technology and other things to augment their efforts, but at the end of the day, so you've got to invest in your people. Companies invest in their product. That's my product. So we invest in the rewards and recognition. So at that banquet, they see their picture up on a big screen. They get a certificate with, recognizing them. They get a crystal award. They get a pin showing the 110% Club. They go back and they tell their peers about it. The thing that it does is it elevates everyone's performance around them.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're like, wow, tell me about that. What happened? And then so next year, you know, maybe this year one guy at the site was there. Next year, 5 guys are at there.
Right, and if you're sitting next to the guy that just won an award,
it's contagious.
You get up the bar.
It's
You look
exactly
like you're sitting
right.
still doing nothing.
It's contagious,
Yeah.
and so that's the model that we build.
How are guards doing in the technology area? Because, you know, 5-6 years ago, 10% had a phone. Now 70% of them have a phone. They're getting more engaged in the technology.
Right.
There's always a challenge to train at the studios. We had computers 20 years ago, right? And that was a challenge. Who used a computer 20 years ago, right?
Right.
What's that bell curve looking like? Are guards more, the younger
They're
guards
much more
especially-
technologically savvy.
They're getting there, okay.
They're embracing it, and truth be told, we screen for that as well.
Good.
We want to make sure that they have computer skills, they know how to do emails, they know how to type, they do the things that are necessary. But you know, so our philosophy is with technology is that it's got to do one of 4 things. Number one, it's got to take costs out of the system.
Yep.
Because technology for technology's sake doesn't make sense. Number 2, it has to enhance the performance of the security officer. It just does. And so when you show the security officers how that can make them better, make them more efficient, make them more effective, that's important, and they embrace it. The third thing is that it's got to mitigate liability for the customer, right?
Right.
If you don't, why have it?
Yeah, why
and
have
then
it, right.
lastly, you know, it's got to give the customer and our organization greater visibility into the events at the facility. So one of those 4 things exists. You have a great technology platform, and so by doing that and focusing on it and making it user-friendly, our officers are embracing it. And truth be told, we're recruiting differently now as well. We're looking for people with technological skills.
And that Quantec program, which kind of screens a lot of that,
Absolutely
really helps a lot. Automation helps a lot.
You know, it's a great product. We recently migrated over to Quantec. And again, people are our product.
Right.
So the visibility that it gives us up front in the recruiting process and some of the predictive screening tools that it has associated with it has been very valuable for us. And then we look at it from a trend perspective. Hey, what happened with this type of individual? How long have they stayed with us? And so it gives us the ability to start to develop better profiles for the type of people that we're bringing in our organization.
Technology is where it's at. So here's the technology question. Last question. When are we getting robot security guards? Is it coming?
You know, I think at the end of the day, someone will bring that to market. But there's only so much a robot can do.
It's people. It's a people product.
People can make decisions that technology cannot.
That's right.
Right? We had a situation recently where, you know, there was an individual at a distribution center. And one of our officers noticed that normal truck drivers have steel toe hard boots on. This person came in a pair of black Nike high tops.
Robot's not going to catch that.
Robot's not going to catch that.
Right.
Our security officer caught it and found out that this person was part of a major theft ring that was stealing millions of dollars worth of cargo, and we were able to thwart that crime. Tell me a robot that can do that.
Right.
It's not going to happen. Yeah. Technology and people, there will always be a balance.
John, SecurAmerica, thank you very much. Website again?
www.secureamerica.llc.com.
Thanks for coming in. Great interview.
Thank you.
Right. And the sun's come out, so we have to cut right now.
Absolutely. Perfect.
Hi, welcome to Security Guy Radio, sir. What's your name?
My name's Ken Lamarca.
Ken, what's your company name?
It's OnNet Surveillance Systems.
What do you guys do?
We manufacture VMS software for the security industry.
All right, now I have a lot of nieces and nephews that don't know what VMS software means, so let's dumb it down for that group.
Sure. VMS is video management software.
Okay, good. Interesting. This is a big challenge now because everybody's got a video camera on everything. What does your software do specifically that makes this work?
We manage enterprise-wide surveillance for end users citywide. We manage it for every type of application, right down to small camera count, multi-location situations.
So, as a price point, you're scalable based on how many cameras you have.
That's
Is it
correct.
subscription base or per camera base or what?
It's a per camera base. It's a license purchase.
Okay.
And it's one license per camera. And we can scale to many thousands of cameras across a system.
What does management mean in that description?
We actually manage the video streams. So if you have 400 cameras in a system, We manage those 400 video streams and make sure that that video ends up where you want it.
Oh, good. Now, do you handle the storage from offsite or what?
Storage can be done off-site. It can be done on-site. We can record directly to a NAS or to hard drives, whichever is more convenient.
What's the trend now? When I was a kid and had a 2 floppy drive computer, right?
Right.
That was a big deal because what people don't realize is there are other other computers that were stored in the room with the big data bank, and your terminal was dumb. The terminal didn't have anything on it, right? It was
right.
Now they call it the cloud, but it's been around a long, long time. And a lot of concerns I get is the cloud is great except when it's not, right? So do you find big corporations are moving back away from the cloud and moving back towards keeping it in-house? If they can, because they have the wherewithal to do it.
As it pertains to high-quality, high-resolution video, the cloud is really not a practical solution today.
Okay, not enough bandwidth.
There's not enough bandwidth. Storage cost is still very high in the cloud. So if you take 200 megapixel cameras or HD cameras and want to move them to the cloud, you need tremendous bandwidth.
Okay,
and
that's interesting.
It's just not practical at this point.
So if you had a small operator, you have a Taco Bell in Encino,
Sure,
and it's got a couple cameras, that's going to work because it's going to take overnight to upload and that kind of thing.
That's correct.
All right. Distinguish your software from a competitor on how the management portion works. Now, back in the day when I could afford at a studio, and the studio said, you can buy digital cameras, and we went, whoa, $30,000 for 4 cameras
right.
and a server, which was a little computer basically, right? But I could do some digital searches for timestamps and things, but it was still more or less push the button, rewind it, like a tape deck in a way.
Sure.
Of course, my gray hair tells me that was a long time ago. So how has that improved, and what does your stuff do?
What's a tape deck?
That's right. Oh, you know what? I just heard the other day that analog sales still outdid digital last year.
That's something.
Maybe this year it's going to flip, right? But it's still amazing that people are still going to analog.
I still listen to vinyl.
That's right. It's hot. It's coming back.
So OnSSI software is called Ocularis. And Ocularis is available in 3 different versions. All 3 scale infinitely, but they're tailored for different types of vertical markets or different applications. So the entry-level product is scalable to 64 cameras and is made for multi-locations with smaller camera counts.
Okay.
So much like convenience stores or franchisee-type applications. Then our mid-level product, which is called Enterprise, is made for campus environments. So schools, hospitals, mid-size situations. And then Ultimate, which is the high-end product, is made for municipalities, citywide surveillance, very large convention arenas, and in situations where the city wants to tie the video to the police departments.
Right.
So we have all different types of product depending on the vertical requirement.
Let's start with a small convenience store. What kind
Sure.
of price point would somebody looking in for a license like that?
Licensing
By the
cost.
way, security guy read a disclaimer. This is not a quote. All right, not a quote.
Not a quote. So licensing costs for an entry-level system could be as low as $139 list price or MSRP for the end user.
A month?
So no, that's a one-time fee and you own it. So
You're kidding me.
No, there's no
I need
recurring.
to come to these trade shows more often.
There's
That's
no
unbelievable.
recurring fees.
Wow.
It's $139 MSRP, and it's your license forever.
Wow.
Now, there are optional plans, such as software upgrade plans.
Right.
If you would like to take advantage of a new feature that's introduced later on in a subsequent release, but it's not required. It's not mandatory.
Now, is your software web-based or local on the local hard drive?
It can be done both ways.
What do you recommend?
Well, for obviously for the main system, we would require a local client.
Right.
We would recommend a local client, but we also have a web-based browser, a web-based browser-based client, and we also have a mobile handheld, so you can look at your video
great.
on the go.
Yeah, mobiles
Yes.
are big.
Yes.
If you're looking at starting this up, what are my requirements as the end user? What do I need to know to call you and say, can you help me?
Well, we would have to sit down and we would have to lay out the design of the system, first of all, which is what we would use a systems integrator for, right? So the SI would go in and he would design the system with you as the end user, make sure that any needs that you have are met in the design, And then the integrator would come back to us, and one of our sales engineers would design with him what we would suggest.
So integration is a big deal. I'm looking, you can't see it on camera, but behind me are your supported devices and the partners. It's everybody in the business.
Yeah.
I mean, we have, you know, FLIR and GVC and Honeywell and Sony. I mean, this is big stuff, Vivitech.
Yeah.
So your systems work with those supported hardwares, right? Linnell, and we talked before the show about this integration issue. So we had, back in the day, standalone systems, everything was safe. If somebody got in my studio and they compromised my access control, well, that's not good, but they didn't get into my cameras.
That's right.
Now they can get into my cameras, my HR system, and my access control, and I got a problem if that happens, right? Mm-hmm. And back in the day, it was the sales guy that came out and handled things for you. And as we talked, and I want you to talk about this if we can remember, because it was a great point, it's really the integrator is the new business contact in a lot of ways, isn't
That's
it?
correct.
And he has to stay there in that relationship.
Yes.
So talk about that, why that's so important.
Yeah, well, look, we just talk about the integrations for a second before we discuss that. We integrate with over 300 technology partners.
300, wow.
300, and we also integrate with more than 3,000 cameras from every major manufacturer. So technology integrations are a very big piece of
That's
this
a big
business.
now. So you belong to OnVIF.
OnVIF, yes, absolutely.
Which is an acronym I cannot remember what it said. In fact, the guy I interviewed wasn't sure what it remembered, but it's an old acronym. But it really is the organization where like-minded people come together. And to boil it down to my soccer mom listeners, they're synchronizing the technology. So there's a certain standard that's met, that's a good standard, it's a quality standard,
right.
And then everybody plays nice and works together by sharing, you know, not the secrets, but the technology. So it kind of works on each system.
So what OnVIF does guarantee is it guarantees a video stream. If the camera has other features, it doesn't guarantee support for them.
Okay.
In the case of a pan-tilt camera, it doesn't guarantee that the camera will move.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yes, it just guarantees that a video stream can be seen.
How long did it take us to get to a level of 4,000 cameras? How long has the industry been working on that?
It takes 15 years.
Wow, that's amazing. But we're here now. That's great.
We're here, yes. And we continue to integrate with new cameras as they come out.
Yeah, I was just over at Vivitech before you, and wow, they got some neat stuff. Pinholes that are 180 or something views. It's amazing. We
utilize a very interesting technique for integration with cameras. We use the manufacturer's universal driver.
Okay.
So what that does is, as long as the manufacturer of the camera continues to adhere to their API commands and they don't change it, we can integrate immediately. As soon as they release it, it should work in our software. Unlike other VMS companies that write specific drivers for every camera.
And you got to hope the guy, you know, didn't have a bad night who was coding and didn't get it right.
That's exactly right.
So most manufacturers are going to have their I'm not using the right technical term, but maybe, you know, their open source code for that driver, and then they have maybe a proprietary driver for something else.
Yes.
And most of them have that, and you use that, and you're plug and play kind of.
Virtually plug and play for all major camera manufacturers.
So if an integrator comes out, he's going to be looking at all these things, checking your cameras, checking that driver, and let's say I'm completely out of compliance because I got 5 manufacturers, I got a PTZ Pelco that's 15 years old, but you're going to be able to solve that by putting this right stuff in and getting it up and running.
Yes, and it actually saves time for the integrator. It saves cost for the end user.
Right.
Because they don't have to spend a lot of time in design.
How old a camera have you gotten online using your system?
How old a camera?
Yeah.
How about one of the first IP cameras ever made, which was a Sony RZ30?
That would go back 15 years?
It goes back 12 to 15 years.
Amazing. And still working. That's
still
great.
work. They still work.
So this sounds like a real cost saving.
Yes.
You're not just adding a management system to it. You're adding a maintenance sustainability to keep that camera up and running before you throw it away.
Right.
Oh, that's fabulous.
So survivability is very good.
Oh, yeah. So an integrator is he's not the new sales guy. He's the new, I don't know, he's the new constant contact. I mean, I'm only calling the boss like you if something's screwed up, right? I want to deal with the guy in the field. And tell us, I think we discussed, this is kind of a new position in a way, right?
We spend an awful lot of time training the integrator base at OnSSI. We have certification classes where integrators can come in for a 4-day boot camp class and learn all about the software and our integrations.
Now, you have your own internal integrators, right?
No, OnSSI does not do installation.
Oh, so you're talking about maybe belonging...
We're talking about third-party integrators, yes.
Okay, all right.
So we will train them. We'll make sure that there's a good end-user experience, because ultimately, you know, it's OnSSI's reputation.
Right.
Right.
Who's the integrator organization that I've talked to?
You could have been talking to PSA, SecurNet.
SecurNet. Yeah, those guys got it together. They're pretty big.
They are very big.
And so their people might come to you to get trained on
yes, their installers would come to us, and we would train them on how to install Ocularis, how to use it, and really to present the best user experience. Right. That's what it's all about.
Now, I was talking to Vivitech, and I said, you guys have awesome cameras. Don't tell me on camera, but is your default password 01 or something, right? Because that's how people hack it. Because by the time it gets to the end user, if they don't have a guy in the middle that's doing the integration, they're probably just turning it on, not setting the password on it, because people don't always think of the camera as a computer. It's a computer nowadays.
This is a huge issue today.
It's a huge problem. And I can't believe it's still a problem after all the publicity about it.
Now, with our latest release of Ocularis 5, we've included 256-bit AES encryption. So from the client to the servers, it's completely encrypted and secure. And if you use the security properly in the camera, you can encrypt the stream end to end.
So you're adding another layer if you actually change the password to something.
Right. If you encrypt the camera, you can go end to end with 256-bit encryption.
Now, in theory, maybe not now, but in theory, could your software handle that password stuff for people? And if they have permit, and you'd be able to change passwords constantly so people can't figure out what they are and things like that.
Sure. I mean,
since it's a computer at the other end, really.
Yeah, the passwords are changeable through the software, certainly.
Oh, they are? Okay. All
right.
Yeah,
but it's another level of security that an integrator has to provide for the end user.
Well, and the end user has to now, with your software, actually change the password themselves. What I'm thinking is, can we automate that to have the system say, all right, it's 3 months, it's time to change that password, boom, you know.
I'm pretty sure you can set an alert in the system.
Yeah.
To, you know, as you would set an alarm on your phone, you can do that within the software to tell you it's time to change the password.
Yeah.
But setting a strong password is vital today in these cameras. And
without naming clients, what would be the largest application we're using your software at?
Well, we do full citywide deployments. You're in a city today that runs Ocularis across the entire city.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. And we
wait, no traffic cameras, I hope.
Not traffic.
Okay,
no,
good. We don't want those. No good in California.
No. This is for citywide surveillance.
I got one once, and I had the visor down, right? And they said, "Was that you?" And I said, "I don't know. Was that me?" I don't have to tell you if it was me or not, but that's why they threw them on California, because it's a little unfair.
Right.
Just a little security guy radio side joke there. All right.
I have a side joke for that also. I used to manufacture the printers that was printed on.
Oh, really?
And they would send them to me in the mail and ask me to pay the fine, right? And I go, on my own printer you send these? On my own printer? So, yeah, those are not funny.
What do you guys got on the drawing board? Anything coming out?
There's so much on the drawing board. There are so many different vertical markets we're looking to address. Different products for different markets. So we have a lot going on right now.
This is cameras, but I'm thinking the technology, the methodology, the management could apply to data streams. I don't know. What else could it apply to?
Non-security applications.
Yeah, like what?
Well, one of the advantages that we've realized from purchasing this company, CTech in Germany, in April, was that they have a wonderful logistics package. So if you're a UPS or you're FedEx and you want to track a package throughout your facility, just by using the barcode scanner, we can correlate that with the video associated.
Oh, interesting.
So at any step along the way, we can tell you where the package is and show you the video of it.
That's CSI stuff.
It's wonderful
stuff,
logistics.
Yeah.
It's an application that's outside of security,
right?
But certainly within the scope of video,
yeah,
right? Video
absolutely.
Surveillance.
Great.
Right?
Sorry about that. All right. Welcome to Security Guy Radio. What's your name, sir?
Rick Carruthers with Galaxy Control Systems.
What does Galaxy Control Systems do?
Galaxy Control Systems is an independent security management company that focuses our attention on building access control hardware and software.
So you're the manufacturer?
Absolutely.
Now that, I haven't had manufacturers yet. This is interesting. Okay. So we got the manufacturer, we got the sales, and we have the integrators.
Yes.
You do all three?
We do not do the direct sales to the customer.
Okay.
We strictly sell to a dealer base. So we are a manufacturer that sells our products to installing integrators worldwide.
Okay, and what, do you guys belong to OnVIF by chance?
We are not on the video side, so OnVIF doesn't play into our space.
Oh, that's interesting. I did
no, our governing guidelines that we deal with are UL 1094 and 276.
Okay, so biometrics.
Yes,
we hear a lot about that. You guys do biometrics.
We integrate with biometrics. Galaxy primarily manufactures the panels and the software. We're reader independent, so we work with biometric companies such as Sajam, BioScript, others, Suprema from other countries. So to us, a reader itself is more like an input device.
Reader's dumb.
The reader's not dumb, but the reader is an input device that gives us the data that I need.
Yeah, you can train it and you take your software and
absolutely.
use it.
It reads the credential, it validates the credential, it lets us know who that person is, and then we apply the rules to our software and hardware as this person's been validated, should we allow them in this facility.
Now, hit cards are kind of generic, so to speak, right?
Yeah,
they can be used in a lot of systems.
Yes.
So we could look at your system that way, that you could plug it into different interfaces.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And the great thing about our system, which makes us a little unique than others, is we don't really mind what type of card credential it is. Most industry standard readers are 26-bit, 36-bit WIGIN, which is the protocol.
Right.
We can read anything up to 256-bit.
Oh.
So to the customer, we're very flexible in the way we operate. We can have multiple readers, so we can have various bit formats. Let's say a major corporation has 3 disparate systems around the world, all have different card technologies, all have different readers.
That happens, right, yeah.
They can pull a Galaxy panel in, and we can continue to use all the field devices from all, and
that's fantastic.
It would show up on the screen as one transaction.
Right.
So to us, it doesn't really make any difference what that end device is, as long as we get the data we need.
So I was talking to an integrator last year, and he said, I think as of 2014, digital had not yet surpassed analog. A lot of analog stuff out there.
There's still a lot of analog
old school stuff, right?
Absolutely, there's still a lot of analog. What we're seeing in the access control space is
you still got the wires going to things.
You still got wires.
Yeah,
there are a lot of developments being made in wireless readers, and we are interfacing with a lot of good brands that have the wireless readers. But on the card side of the technology, we are seeing a migration over to the smart cards. We've seen the migration in Europe for the last 20 years.
Yeah, why did we wait?
I think we wait because it's an unknown technology to the U.S. market. Huh. It's a more expensive technology.
Okay.
You're looking at a $2 Prox card and a $4 smart card.
Yeah.
And if you start noticing, our banks are now issuing chip cards.
I just got my first American Express card.
And it's got a chip on it.
That's right, first one.
Having dealt with Europe in the last 20 years, you don't do a transaction with your debit card that's not chip-based.
Right.
They come to your table, they take your chip, they do the processing at the table, so to avoid fraud.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So that's starting to become more. I think you'll see more of that here in the U.S. to where the person's not leaving with your card, and that's becoming in the access control. We can do so much more with a chipped card. With an access card that only has the coils inside a 26-bit WIGIN, you can't put a biometric on the card. You can't put a unique PIN. So there's storage pockets on those smart cards that will allow you to do more. You can mix your logic access and your physical access. So what I use to access my computer can be a packet on that chip.
Yeah.
I can do the same to access the door. So all that can be on one card. So you're carrying this common card that ties in multiple systems in your system.
Now, I always argue that old school is not completely bad, right?
Well, it's
because if I integrate everybody now,
yeah.
and I have a graphic user interface to make your stuff work, and I got an API for this guy, and we're all going to roast marshmallows and sing songs and say, we're all integrated, we'll all work together. If I'm the bad guy and I get in, I only got to get in once.
You only got to get in one portal.
And I'm in everything.
Yeah.
What do we do inside your software, and maybe in the industry in general? What are people doing to solve that problem? It's kind of a new problem.
It is a new problem. There's a lot of checks and balances you've got to put in. It falls back into your encryption schemes that you put in your system. And as long as all your integrated platforms, and I think the whole integration world, there's a lot of buzzwords going around the industry.
Yeah, I learned about 4 new ones today.
Buzzwords take fire.
Yeah.
And when a buzzword takes fire, it may not be the best thing ever, but you've got a lot of much bigger companies with much bigger marketing budgets than even us, that they'll start this buzzword, and then it resonates with the consulting community. And then the consultants start putting the buzzwords into specifications, and next thing now it's a feature you got to have. The biggest one that
and it isn't even designed yet.
And you don't even know what it is.
That's right.
The biggest anomaly right now is the cloud. Everybody's talking about this cloud-based this or that.
Now you have gray hair just like I do. Not as much, of course.
Yeah.
But what was the cloud before? It was called it was hierarchy storage management.
Absolutely.
And the computer at your office was dumb and didn't store a thing on it. There was no hard drive. And if you stole that terminal, it didn't matter because it was locked in a closet somewhere, right? And now it's the cloud. It's magic.
It's the cloud.
It's the same thing.
There's a piece of hardware somewhere in that cloud.
That's right.
So whether that hardware is sitting at your facility or is being hosted somewhere, and the thing about that I worry about, and we offer cloud-based solutions, we offer apps, we're offering all those because you almost have to compete in the world.
You do, right.
So, but the thing I always wonder is, and we're a global company, we're in 48 countries now, we just did a major server farm in Doha, Qatar, in the Middle East, 400 miles from ISIS-controlled territory, and GoDaddy is hosting a lot of their servers there that are being routed from the U.S.
Yeah.
So if I was a security director, I would want to know where physically my cloud is.
Right.
And if it is in one of these nations, I mean, India is a major storage hub for cloud. Russia is a major storage hub.
Right.
You don't know where in the World Wide Web your stuff's going.
And
you got to rely on I know how my security is for my facility. What's the security like in a data center that all my data is going there?
Well, that all comes back to, and IT guys likes to say that's an IT security problem. It's still physical security, right?
If it affects physical security, you can't point.
You got to get in the door.
It points fingers at the end of the day.
You got to get in the door to work the keyboard.
Absolutely,
right?
and the hackers out there are becoming very keen. I would imagine if it were me and I was a security director of a major facility, having it in my internal network, having it behind my security controls, that my IT department, in collaboration with my security department, controlled would be a peace of mind for me.
I think that's
now,
what I'm saying.
Now, if you want to do off-site replication, now that makes sense.
That's a backup. That's different.
And now you could replicate to 10 different sites around the world, and that makes sense.
You could replicate to your own corporate site.
Absolutely, and we do a lot of replication, and you'll replicate something happening in one city to another city. That absolutely makes sense. You shouldn't have your replication on the same site.
Now, I never understood some of these cloud. When I left the corporate world as a buyer, cloud was just kind of coming around, right?
Mm-hmm.
So where's your redundant server? What do you mean redundant server? Well, we don't have it. We're going to get one though. When are you going to get one? You got to have a redundant server, right? And where's your cloud-based storage? Well, that's confidential. Well, guess what? Disney doesn't want to put anything in your network until you tell me where it is, right? And it probably was in Russia or something that we didn't know about.
Well, and as a manufacturer, I mean, we're watching all those emerging buzzwords and how that affects us.
Do you think you pay attention more than the consumer to that? I would imagine.
Oh, I think we have to.
Yeah.
Because we have to.
Well, there isn't something, and they shouldn't believe there is. I think that's my belief, right?
Well,
so to me, all security is local, so this might work over here in this area.
What works fine for the Army will not work for the Marine Corps or maybe even the Navy.
Right.
But they're trying to force, everybody into that, every square peg into that round hole.
Without divulging any top secrets, what kind of products do you provide the either law enforcement and or military?
Well, what we try to do is we try access control and the software behind it. And what we try to do is we try to follow the trends of the bit formats and what the government cards, the common access card, are going to do. And then we try to make our product work as seamlessly as possible.
Good
With
example.
A good example, the current common access card stores a 200-bit CHUID, or it's it's an electronic ID. Our panel, we have it configured now, we can read up to 256 bits.
Okay.
So we're exceeding that limit. Some manufacturers can't even get to that point yet.
Oh, interesting, all right.
So that's what we try to do. We try to look ahead and we design that far in advance. If tomorrow they came out and said it's got to be 300-bit, we could change our firmware tomorrow and have it reading 300 bits.
Interesting.
So we're very flexible on that.
But some other markets you're in?
And that's absolutely one of the markets, and we try to cater to our customers that demand that.
What other type of markets?
Other type of markets, pharmaceutical, healthcare. We're very big in the healthcare. K through 12 education.
Now, let's talk about healthcare real quick. They have a lot of policies and rules.
Yes.
Same problem. Got to keep up with this rule, but we don't have any money to fund it, but we're going to do it someday. It's the same kind of problem, right?
The emergence of HIPAA over the last several years has really increased the amount of security you're going to see in a facility, but it also has increased the complexity that you've got to do it.
Now, does the data for your systems fall under HIPAA? That's an interesting question.
Our data
inside a hospital. It's not patient data, but it is a patient walking in.
It is a patient walking in.
Yeah.
It could probably fall under HIPAA. We do have to get joint commission accreditation, like the facilities.
Okay.
They have to submit our systems. The fact that we encrypt all of our data with 256-bit AES encryption, once we show them that, And once we show them some of our other government credentials, it normally suits the bill.
Now, does your you have software that manages the data once it's collected, I
Yes,
assume?
absolutely.
And the user uses that
Absolutely.
internally.
It's the GUI that they use, correct.
Once you walk away from the sale and you're doing the maintenance, I've always wondered this. Legally, how are you connected to the data? Or are you? Or is it once it's passed off, is it their data?
Yeah, I mean, we have a software license agreement, and once that dealer sells it to the customer, they transfer that software license to them, and that basically it takes the obligation away from the factory.
Yeah, and you have the encryptions. You did your job.
Yeah, we did everything
and
we're supposed to do.
if they stick it on a floppy drive and take it home,
if they do something to it, it's not anything that we can control. Because we basically transfer the ownership of that license to the end user.
Are you seeing any of this stuff in residential access control? It's
not primarily, not in the States. In some of the foreign countries we deal in, where you're talking about residential compounds in the Middle East, palaces, and that we do see a lot of access control when they're doing perimeter security. But in the U.S., that's not a big market for us at all. Now we do see a lot of products that are being geared toward taking commercial type products and retrofitting them for the residential market.
Yeah.
I mean, I recently just upgraded my deadbolt on my house to a keypad deadbolt.
Right.
That's battery operated now. I don't have to worry about giving my kids a key or the guy coming to fix my sink. I give him a code, he punches it in, he walks in the door.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that. I think a lot of the commercial stuff is being pushed into the residential space, which is not a bad thing, because I think that's only going to help the commercial world. As people embrace it more in their homes, then they're going to embrace it in their workplace as well.
What do you think is the biggest threat we have right now in security?
Biggest threat? Cyber security.
Yeah.
Foreign cyber attacks. I think that there's countries and organizations out there that are doing nothing but employing people to try to crack in. Our products are residing on networks, so we have to be careful that that our portal, any IP portal that you've got on a network, can be a way into the software.
Right. Now, you do your encryption. How do you what's that? How do you do penetration tests on your stuff?
Well, one thing,
stick something out there and try to hack it all day?
One thing that we did that we're fortunate of, us being on a lot of the military programs that we're on, the government has a program called DICAP. And DICAP, you have to have a DICAP accreditation before they'll allow you to ride on what they call the SIPRNet. And what the SIPRNet is the top secret network. So they load your software and your hardware. Yeah, it's
you just told me about it.
Well, the top secret network, everybody knows the SIPR.
Yeah,
But so the software and the hardware that we have and we sell to the government, they have a program that tests us against threats. And basically they'll install us on it, and then they'll run this software that just hits pings and threats against us.
Yeah.
Once you pass that, now all my hardware panels and all my software is DICAP approved, and we have what they call an ATO, an active authority to operate. The authority to operate means I've been tested, you can put me on the top secret network and you don't have to worry about me being a threat.
No, that's good.
And that's with anything. That's your copier down the hall that's attached, your printer at your desk.
Well,
everybody has to go through that DICAP process.
It's all an IP address.
And it's all IP address based.
It's all computer.
So with us having that with the military, that gives us a higher level of assurance on our commercial customers.
Right.
If the commercial IT starts asking, what do you do to threat against cybersecurity? We show them the testing criteria. Now, we don't show them the results of our test because we can't. But we can show them the testing criteria the government uses, and 90% of the time that's far more stringent than they can ever do internally themselves.
Right.
So it brings a level of assurance that if this is good enough to ride on the U.S. military's top secret network, then obviously it's good enough to ride on our corporate account and our corporate network. So we use that a lot.
Name your company one more time.
Galaxy Control Systems.
And how do we get a hold of you on the web?
www.galaxysys.com.
Thanks for talking. It's a good conversation.
All right, thank you.
So, welcome to Security Guy Radio. What's your name?
John Fitzpatrick.
John, what's the name of your company?
Dortronics Systems.
What does Dortronics Systems do?
We manufacture electromagnetic locks, power supply switches, door controllers.
Oh, power supplies too. Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Tell me about the history of the company. It's very interesting.
Sag Harbor Industries is our parent company, which was founded in the 1940s by Thomas Edison's son, Charles Edison.
Oh, interesting.
Charles Edison was Secretary of the Navy at the time. He was also an entrepreneur, set up some companies out on the eastern end of Long Island, and was studying management principles. And Sag Harbor Industries was one of the companies that he set up and still going to this day.
Oh, interesting.
They're a custom coil manufacturer, which evolved into manufacturing electromagnets and started the Dortronics division. in the 80s, late 80s.
Mag locks is a common term used for that, generic term, right? Are you guys one of the first places that invented that or came along with that?
We were early on in the game, for
Right.
sure. We didn't invent the maglock, but we certainly have developed it and made some great improvements for it along the way.
What's your primary business? What's the number one thing you sell?
Maglocks.
Maglocks, okay. So I had a lot of maglocks at the studios. I used to work for Fox and Disney, right? And they had just kind of come out, and we were always worried about, fail safe, fail secure, and all those kind of things. How have magnetic locks evolved since, let's say, the 80s? Are they any different?
Quite a bit. The
Okay.
first units were actually a series of individual coils, which were round, and they were, mounted in one single housing. Well, now, instead of individual coils, having a bunch of them, it's one big coil wound around an electromagnetic
Now, why is that
core.
better?
Better efficiency electrically. It draws less current, and it has a greater pulling force.
I like maglocks because no moving parts,
Yep.
right? Electricity issue at a broadcast facility, if we lose electricity, we're off the air, so I wasn't worried about that. And I thought they're very efficient. What's the percentage of maglocks people install as opposed to, regular hardware and electronic locks and things like that?
It's tough to put a finger on because there are so many players there, but I would say in general they're probably about 25% of the market.
It seems like a more efficient lock. Are people afraid of them because of the fail-safe, fail-secure aspect, or what?
Well, you touched on it earlier about power failure,
Right.
and
It's going to open everything. It has to, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
However, we manufacture power supplies
UPS?
with UPS.
Okay.
So you're good for at least a day, where you can keep the doors locked, and then in the meantime, hopefully power is restored. In this day and age, we don't usually have that much of a downtime.
Although
in power.
if the grid's going to be attacked, which I'm kind of thinking it is eventually, right?
Yep.
That's what I would do if I was a bad guy.
Right.
That could be an issue. Now, are your systems integrated now? Are they on the networks?
Not on the networks.
Oh, good. That's
No.
a good advantage to have in a maglock.
Yeah. We
Could
have.
it be, or it's just not
Oh
happening?
yeah, absolutely. But a major portion of our business now is man traps and interlocks,
Okay.
where we're controlling certain areas in a building. A lot of pharmaceutical manufacturing, law enforcement, banking institutions, and casinos. They want separate systems that's disassociated from the access control
That's a
system,
smart way to do it.
so that should the access control system be compromised in some way, that the door control interlock system is not.
See, I worry about integration because it's great that all systems, Tyco and Palco and everybody can talk to each other, except the hacker gets in one system now, he gets in everybody's system. So I like the idea of having standalone components for very specific reasons, so it can't be tampered with on the net.
Exactly.
And if you have UPS on a maglock, I'm all for it because now it's not on the network. I got a backup for battery. If you can't fix your problem in a day, you got a bigger problem, and lock's not going to do anything about it, right?
Absolutely.
So I think that's a great idea.
Yep.
What other type of stuff do you make for as far as controllers and locks and things like that?
We have a series of interlock controllers, starting with a very basic two-door system, which is relay logic for locked and unlocked doors, or a pair of doors that may be one locked and one unlocked. And those are field configurable with jumpers. We have a four-door system, which is a PLC-based unit, which we can program a lot of different functionality into for timing functions. Typically, we see that happening in the pharmaceutical industry, where they'll step into a clean area,
Right.
maybe have to gown up, so we're going to have to time that sequence.
Oh,
Then they may step into the next chamber, in which the air will be evacuated and replaced with fresh air before they step into the manufacturing area. So we're timing these functions, we're controlling the air baffles, to change the air, and then they might want to say, okay, all right, we'll allow these three doors to lock, but those two on the other side of the facility, when these open, we want those closed.
now that's a function of software and hardware?
Exactly, but hardware controlled by software. But
Right.
we're getting into much more complicated systems now, where they'll have, up to 15 doors controlled from one controller.
One control, 15?
Yes.
Wow.
We can do up to 100.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think the most we had, when I did Fox's design, the Broadcast Center, 96, I think 4?
Yep.
4 in the doors? Oh,
Yep.
4, that's amazing. You know, it's like, it was a big
Well,
giant
that's
deal.
kind of how we started out,
Yeah.
with a money counting area in a casino. And it came as a result of one of the trade shows that somebody came in and said, can you do this? And we said, yeah, sure, we can do that. And then from there, they expanded on. They said, well, you can control these 2 doors to come in and out of the money counting, but what about when the armored car truck pulls up? Can you control that door too?
Right.
So, and the pass-through doors
And
for the
synchronize
cash.
it all, time it and everything.
Right.
Yeah. Now, were
So-
you one of the first in the space that was able to add multiple doors like that?
It can be done program-wise with other, you know, with a PLC or computer, but
Right.
what we've done is we've simplified it greatly and have a library of routines,
Oh.
which we've seen over
Yeah,
the
that
years.
makes sense, yeah.
And we have a checklist that we can walk down with the customer and say, okay, do you have automatic door openers? Do you have environmental control areas where we have to worry about different temperatures? They may have to step on a weight pad, a retina scanner, you know, as a higher level security aspects come into it. So we've really fine-tuned it. We have a great background in it now and are looking to progress forward with, you know, making it easier for the customers and the installers to do these installations.
So, you know, a board that has 100 doors on it, that's easy peasy hardware, installation space, right? Is it good for security though?
100 doors is a lot. We can do it. We've never done it.
Well, I'll say it's 50.
Yeah, 40 is the most we've done.
Okay, 40. So if I had 40 separate controllers, is my system physically safer in a way? From hacking, from tampering, from whatever, I don't know.
I don't know that as far as hacking goes, if you get into one system, you know, what's
Well, of course, if it's all integrated, it
next
doesn't
one?
matter, right?
yeah.
I had a client that had a high school, and they didn't want, first of all, they didn't have any conduit, and they didn't want to spend money on the bandwidth for wireless, and so they stuck these, you know, individual doors that were individually programmed to punch it in code, and it saved the data, and they had to go with the little wire and every day download 50
Yep.
doors
Yep.
and put it on their computer. Pain in the butt. However, guess what? Nobody's hacking in those doors. So,
Right.
So there's an advantage to old school as
Yeah.
well. Where do you see the market going with stuff like this, especially the mag locks?
Well, we've seen no drop off whatsoever. You know, in fact, you know, it's been increasing. Our volume has increased
Right.
from day one, and which I thought, you know, we may see some of these other mechanical hardware coming into play that have the readers built in, which there are a fair number of them.
I've seen a couple today, and they're putting the hardware and software on one panel. It's all
Yeah.
together, and you know, but more moving parts.
Right.
More
The
problems.
maglock's easy. It's an easily retrofittable device.
Yeah.
So you can come into a space and they say, oh, you know what? We do want to lock that door. Okay, so it's a surface mount unit. You're not having to mortise it.
We had them on super fancy glass doors, and that's difficult to do.
Yep.
And one day we had it. People weren't used to it, and one strong guy came up, and it wasn't a mag lock at the bottom, just the top, and he flexed that glass, and it went like that, shattered.
Yeah.
We fixed it after that, but
Yeah.
it would not open. The glass could wait before that happened.
Right. The lock is typically stronger than the door itself.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So if you like mag locks, it seems like you're sticking with mag locks.
Absolutely.
What's the next greatest thing in a mag lock? What's on the drawing board that's going to be different, or is that just kind of the way they're going to be?
Well,
They're so efficient.
They are. The PoE is the next thing, but there's a certain amount of current that you can supply over PoE.
Right.
Maglocks require current constantly.
Now you say the retrofittable, easier if you have a drop ceiling in your business, which a lot of
Absolutely.
businesses do. So you go up in the attic, then you drill a hole down into the door frame, stuff like that. But if you had a hard ceiling, a little more difficult, but still be done.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, people are running conduit all the time.
Yeah.
It may not be the prettiest installation in some cases, but if they're going to run conduit, a lot of times it's in a industrial atmosphere. We see that with gates a lot. We lock a lot of gates. We have conduit brackets and fittings available on all of our maglocks. But as far as how pretty they are in an installation like that, it's how good the installer is, really.
Yeah. Ours was not pretty with the glass door. Couldn't do anything about it, but it worked. Worked very well.
We
Now,
do have, speaking of that type of installation, we have a unit that's a mortise pull. So the
Oh, I love mortise locks. Those are cool.
yeah, so the force is applied right at the door
Oh, that's
lock
interesting.
where you're grabbing it with your hand. The armature's mounted right in the handle. You walk up to it, it looks just like a regular door handle.
Right.
Except the armature is mounted in there and the magnet
So
is right
instead of having
behind
a
it.
reader that releases it, it's a mechanical release. So to speak.
Well, what I'm saying is it can be released either way. However, if you come up to the door, the magnet is right where you're pulling.
Oh, there
It's mounted vertically in the door.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Now, I want to talk about the network again. I'm getting old and I get confused sometimes. We can put mag locks on the network, but nobody asks for it? Is that the idea? It's not
Well,
usually a thing?
I am I'm out of that loop a little because after it goes out of my factory, a lot of times I'm not sure, what they're doing with it, how
So
it's
you're
being
not
applied.
manufacturing with that board on board to do that. It's
No.
just something they might retrofit or something.
Right.
Like that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anything else in the industry that's the latest, greatest thing? What about robots? Are we going to get robots anytime soon? They keep talking about it. I don't know.
I haven't heard anything about that, but I wouldn't doubt that eventually. I mean, certainly in the pharmaceutical industry, they do have robots that do a lot of things.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So it's not like we're unfamiliar with it, but I don't know. Security-wise, I
John
don't.
Fitzpatrick from Dortronics. Thanks for coming in. Which website?
Dortronics.com
And where are you guys located?
in Sag Harbor, New York.
All right, excellent. Thanks for coming on, John.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Excellent.